They say there's no pain quite like the feeling of betrayal, but I can tell you there is. The specific gut-wrenching pain of being betrayed by your own child. A lie that wasn't just designed to hurt you, but to obliterate your entire life. I was married to Robert for 17 years. We had the kind of life people envy. Comfortable, stable, maybe a little predictable, but fiercely loving. Our world revolved around our only son, Ethan. Ethan was 16, bright, introverted, and intensely focused on his schoolwork. He wasn't difficult, just quiet and incredibly important to me. He was my boy. Our life, the rock-solid foundation of our family, cracked wide open on a Tuesday evening. I walked into a silent house. Too silent. Robert was sitting in the living room, in the leather armchair he always retreated to when he was stressed. The air around him was thick, cold, and heavy. "We need to talk," he said, his voice flat. He didn't look up at me. I shrugged off my coat, instantly on edge. "About what, honey?" "Did something happen at the office?" He finally lifted his head. His eyes weren't just angry. They were dead. They held a raw, agonizing confusion that terrified me more than any shout ever could. "It's about Saturday night, Sarah," he said. I frowned. "Saturday? I was in Chicago, remember? The graphic design convention? I told you my flight was delayed. I only got back late Sunday afternoon." "No," he said slowly, deliberately, the words falling like stones. "I know where you were supposed to be. I want to know where you actually were. Robert, what is going on?" "I was in Chicago. I have the boarding passes, the hotel receipts, the convention badge." He cut me off, holding up a hand. "I don't need receipts, Sarah." "I have a witness." My stomach dropped. "A witness? To what?" "To you," he breathed out, the word loaded with contempt. "In the parking lot of the old River Road Motel at 11:45 p.m. on Saturday. You weren't alone. You were getting into a black Ford Expedition with a man. The absurdity of it hit me first. The River Road Motel? It was a dilapidated, greasy place known for short-term stays, miles away from our quiet suburban town. A place I wouldn't be caught dead near. Robert, that is insane. Who on earth told you such a ridiculous lie?" His eyes hardened, filling with devastating certainty. "Ethan told me, Sarah. Our son saw you. The shock wasn't just a sudden feeling, it was a physical blow." I stumbled backward, my hand flying to my mouth. "Ethan? My sweet, reserved boy? He would never lie about something like this." He couldn't. "No, that's impossible," I whispered, shaking my head frantically. "He must be mistaken." He was at his friend Kevin's house that night. He must have seen someone who looked like me. "He said he was riding his bike home from Kevin's," Robert explained, his voice breaking slightly. "He took the long way by the river trail. He said he saw our car parked behind the motel. He waited. He watched you walk out, smiling, and get into the man's car." "Robert, our car was in the long-term parking lot at the airport." I was screaming now, pleading for him to see the logical impossibility. "I flew out Friday afternoon. Ethan is lying. Why would he lie about something so cruel?" "He wasn't lying, Sarah," Robert insisted, finally looking truly lost. "He was devastated. He was crying when he told me. He said he couldn't keep his mother's secret. He said he recognized your coat, your hair. He saw you. I felt the foundation of my reality give way. It wasn't just the accusation of infidelity. It was the fact that the person who delivered the blow, the person who made the accusation believable, was the boy I had raised." Robert handed me a small folded piece of paper. It was a note, written in Ethan's neat, sloping handwriting. "Mom, I'm sorry. I had to tell Dad the truth. I couldn't keep watching you lie to him. It's better he knows." I sank onto the sofa, the paper trembling in my hand. He hadn't just told Robert. He had confessed it like a terrible secret he could no longer hold. The sincerity of the note, the apparent guilt in his confession, made the lie utterly convincing to Robert. "He's staying with my sister for a few days," Robert said, standing up. "He can't bear to be here right now." I don't know what to believe, Sarah, but I know Ethan would never invent something this painful. "He didn't invent it," I said, tears streaming down my face. "Someone is making him say this. Someone put this image in his head. Someone made him betray me. But who? And why? Who would gain anything by destroying my marriage using the one person who should have been my most staunch defender?" I spent the rest of the night pacing, frantically digging through my travel itinerary, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that I was miles away in a Chicago hotel room that night. The receipts, the location data on my phone, the time-stamped photos from the convention floor, it all pointed to my innocence. But none of it mattered to Robert, because his witness was his son. I knew then that I wasn't fighting an affair accusation. I was fighting a deep, hidden, external manipulation that had somehow turned my own child into the weapon that destroyed me. I had to get to Ethan. I had to find out who held the strings and what they wanted. The immediate aftermath was a blur of frantic action and total despair. Robert was unwilling to hear anything that contradicted Ethan's tearful confession. He moved into the guest room and our conversations became cold, brief exchanges about utilities and lawyers. He was already preparing for divorce, convinced that his son, his moral compass, would not lie about something so devastating. My priority shifted entirely from proving my fidelity to proving Ethan's impossible story was manipulated. I gathered all my evidence for Saturday night, compiling a chronological timeline. Friday, 3 p.m., checked in at the O'Hare International Airport long-term parking. Friday, 5:30 p.m., flight confirmed arrival in Chicago, Uber receipt to the hotel. Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., convention attendance confirmed by badge scans and several tagged photos on social media with colleagues. Saturday, 11:45 p.m., the crucial time. My hotel keycard logs showed I accessed my room at 11:12 p.m. I had a text exchange with a colleague about presentation notes at 11:35 p.m. My phone's GPS data was firmly pinned to the downtown Chicago hotel. I presented this stack of irrefutable digital evidence to Robert. He barely glanced at it. "This proves nothing, Sarah," he said, turning away. "You could have paid someone to use the card. You could have left the phone with a friend. Ethan was here. He saw our car. He saw you." "Robert," I pleaded, my voice breaking, "our car was at the airport. I have the parking stub. Even if I'd flown back just to meet a man at a trashy motel, I would have had to get our car out of the long-term lot, which is a 30-minute drive in the opposite direction of that motel. It's logistically impossible." The logic was flawless, but it bounced right off his wall of conviction. "Maybe you rented another car," he mumbled, inventing excuses for my invented crime. The man was drowning in his belief in his son's honesty. I realized then that the truth was irrelevant. The damage was done, and the one common factor in the disaster, Ethan, was being shielded by Robert. I had to get to Ethan without Robert's knowledge. I called Robert's sister, Amelia, where Ethan was staying. Amelia and I had always been close, and I trusted her more than anyone else in Robert's family. "Amelia, I need to see Ethan," I said, trying to keep the desperation from my voice. "Sarah, I don't know." She hesitated. "Robert says you need space. Ethan is very fragile right now." "Fragile?" I asked. "Amelia, your nephew just destroyed his mother's life with an impossible lie. I have hard evidence that I was over 500 miles away when he claims he saw me. He is either deeply troubled or he is being coerced, and I need to know which one it is." Amelia was a rational woman, a scientist. The word coerced seemed to pierce the fog of family loyalty. I sent her a photo of my Chicago hotel key card log and the Uber receipt timestamp. The immediate, verifiable data was hard to ignore. A few hours later, Amelia called back. "He's at a friend's house. Come over now. I told Robert I was taking him shopping tomorrow, so we have a small window." I drove to Amelia's house, my heart pounding a rhythm of fear and determination. When I saw Ethan, he was sitting on his bed, playing a video game. He looked up, and the look in his eyes wasn't the guilt of a liar. It was the intense, focused panic of someone trapped. "Ethan," I started, trying to keep my voice gentle. "Why did you tell your father that you saw me that night?" He flinched, looking down at his game console. "I told him because I saw you, Mom." I told the truth. "No, you didn't, sweetie," I said, sitting beside him. "The truth is, I was in Chicago." "Look at this." I showed him the photo of the airport parking ticket and the location data. "It is impossible for me to have been at the River Road Motel. You have always been my honest boy. Tell me what happened. Who told you to say this?" Ethan squeezed his eyes shut. "No one told me. I saw you. It was dark, but I saw your coat, your hair, and the car was black like your friend Alex's Ford, and you were laughing." "Alex," I repeated, my mind racing. Alex was a male colleague from work whom I had collaborated with on a few projects. I had only mentioned him in passing to Robert and Ethan. I wasn't with Alex, and Alex doesn't even drive a Ford Expedition. Suddenly, a tiny, almost imperceptible detail surfaced from the depths of my memory. A random conversation from months ago, right before Ethan started high school. Robert and I were discussing a work colleague over dinner. Me. "Alex is really pulling his weight on the Peterson account. He drives that huge black Expedition. You can't miss it." I had made a throwaway comment about Alex's car. Ethan had been there eating dinner, quietly listening. That meant two things. Ethan knew about Alex's black Ford Expedition. The man he saw me with was not just a random stranger. He was someone Ethan had heard me mention in connection with a specific vehicle. The manipulation wasn't random. It was surgically precise. Someone close to us, someone who knew details about my professional life and Ethan's movements, had coached him. But why would Ethan agree to be coached? "Ethan," I whispered, holding his hand, "I need you to tell me what scared you. Did someone hurt you? Did someone threaten you?" He yanked his hand away, tears finally spilling over. "Stop, Mom. Just stop. I told the truth. I saw you. Don't make me the liar. Please, Mom. Just don't make Dad leave me." His last sentence hit me with the force of a physical blow. Don't make Dad leave me. This wasn't about me. This was about Robert. Ethan wasn't trying to destroy me. He was trying to protect his father from something. But what? And what on earth did my supposed infidelity have to do with Robert leaving? The whole scenario flipped on its head. The question wasn't, who made Ethan lie? The question was, What does Robert know that Ethan is desperately trying to cover up? I left Amelia's house with the chilling certainty that my son's lie was a desperate act of self-preservation, a smokescreen to protect the family from a darker truth that lay squarely with Robert. The real drama wasn't my infidelity, it was Robert's secret, and Ethan was sacrificing his mother to keep that secret buried. I couldn't shake Ethan's desperate plea, "Don't make Dad leave me." It was the single, undeniable truth in a web of sophisticated lies. Ethan wasn't worried about my fidelity. He was terrified of losing his father. His lie about the cheating was a distraction, a shield. But what was he shielding Robert from? I had to find the real secret. Robert was an accountant for a major financial firm. He was meticulous, boringly honest, and utterly devoted to his work. If he was hiding something so catastrophic that Ethan felt compelled to destroy his mother to cover it up, it had to be professional, financial, or possibly criminal. I started by focusing on the only tangible detail Ethan had provided: the car. Ethan claimed to have seen our car at the motel, but then revised his story to seeing a black Ford Expedition, which he somehow connected to my colleague, Alex. Since my car was at the airport and Alex's Expedition was likely nowhere near that motel, someone had to have driven a similar black Ford Expedition that night, and more importantly, someone wanted Ethan to focus on it. I did some digging, utilizing my contacts from my graphic design work, which often required me to track down details for clients. I focused on the area around the River Road Motel. It was a notoriously cheap, cash-only place. A week into my investigation, I got a break. A contact who worked in vehicle registration databases provided me with a cross-reference of black Ford Expeditions registered within a 10-mile radius of the motel that were frequently cited for minor parking infractions. One name popped up repeatedly: Daniel Stern. Daniel Stern was not a name I knew, but a quick search revealed his connection to Robert. He was a low-level financial consultant in Robert's department, about 5 years younger than Robert, and known for his flashiness and gambling issues. Why would Robert's colleague be parked at the River Road Motel on the night I was supposedly cheating? I drove to the motel. It was even more depressing in person. I checked in, paying cash, and spent the night watching the parking lot, feeling like a detective in a bad thriller. I learned nothing, but the sense of unease solidified my resolve. Next, I turned my attention to Robert's finances, knowing I was crossing a major boundary, but feeling justified by the stakes. I knew Robert kept impeccable records, but he also had a secret encrypted external hard drive he always took to work and back. The night I planned my search, Robert was out late, supposedly meeting his lawyer. I accessed his home office. The external drive was connected to his laptop. Robert had a complex password, but after 17 years, I knew his patterns. His old high school football jersey number, plus the year Ethan was born. It worked. I started digging. I wasn't looking for cheating emails. I was looking for financial anomalies. I found what seemed like standard client records, but under a folder cryptically labeled DS Transfer Log, I found my first real anomaly. It was a spreadsheet detailing a series of very large, irregular bank transfers, all outgoing, all dated over the past 6 months, and all directed to an offshore account. The sender's name on the spreadsheet wasn't Robert's, but the associated client codes were Robert's most important, high net worth clients. The total amount transferred was staggering, nearly $4.5 million. The spreadsheet also contained notes. The most recent note, dated just 3 weeks before Ethan's confession, read, DS demanding the final installment. Says he needs to disappear. If the firm finds out, it all collapses. R needs more time. DS Daniel Stern. The picture snapped into sharp, terrifying focus. Robert wasn't meeting a lover. Robert was caught in a major embezzlement scheme orchestrated with his colleague, Daniel Stern. Robert had been systematically stealing from his high-profile clients. But where did the cheating lie fit in? And why the River Road Motel? The motel was not a rendezvous point for Robert and Daniel Stern. It was Daniel Stern's last stop before vanishing with the final payment. And Ethan's lie? It was a perfectly timed, catastrophic distraction. Robert hadn't told Ethan, "I'm a criminal, help me hide." He had told him, "If I leave your mother, it will be because she cheated. We can keep this between us and the family will stay together." The threat wasn't that Robert would leave because of a crime. The threat was that the crime would destroy the family's stability and wealth. Robert must have convinced Ethan that if the marriage dissolved because of my adultery, the subsequent split of assets would prevent the firm from investigating Robert's financial desperation, allowing Robert to somehow secretly pay the money back or escape the blame. Ethan's lie wasn't about protecting his father from jail. It was about protecting their lifestyle and keeping Robert physically present in the home. My heart ached for my son. He hadn't just witnessed a fake affair. He was caught in a terrifying financial crime and was desperate to save his father from a future he couldn't comprehend. He had chosen the lesser evil, destroying his mother's reputation to preserve his father's presence. I realized I was facing not just a betrayal, but a conspiracy. Robert was using my non-existent infidelity as a panic button, a quick exit from his own career-ending catastrophe. I had to expose the embezzlement, but I had to do it in a way that protected Ethan from the fallout. The real target was Daniel Stern, the person likely holding the leverage and the one who had physically met at the motel. The hard drive data confirmed my worst fears. Robert was a criminal, and he had cleverly weaponized his son's innocence to facilitate his escape from justice. The $4.5 million theft was a financial tsunami waiting to crash down on our lives. My immediate focus shifted from getting Robert back to protecting Ethan and ensuring that Robert's downfall was contained and not transferred to our son. Ethan had been coerced into lying, but the full weight of his father's actions would still be devastating. I needed one thing: the truth from Daniel Stern. Robert, fearing I would access his computers, had now taken the external drive with him everywhere. He was growing more paranoid, treating me with cold suspicion. He believed he was successfully diverting attention onto the adultery scandal, preparing for a quiet financial divorce settlement that would leave him with enough cash to disappear or pay back a portion of the stolen funds. I knew Daniel Stern was the weaker link. He was the one who was demanding the final installment and planning to bolt. I used my design contacts again, this time to track Daniel Stern's movements. I discovered he was laying low, hiding in a modest apartment complex on the outskirts of the city, likely waiting for Robert to wire the final sum. The meeting had to be meticulously planned. I couldn't go to the police yet. If the embezzlement was revealed prematurely, Robert might panic and destroy the evidence, or worse, implicate Ethan. I drove to the apartment complex late one afternoon. I didn't knock. I waited in the parking lot until Daniel Stern walked out to retrieve a delivery. "Daniel Stern?" I called out, walking towards him with an air of calm confidence I definitely didn't feel. He spun around, his face blanching when he recognized me. He knew who I was, Robert's wife, the woman at the center of the whispered adultery scandal at the firm. "Who are you? How do you know my name?" he stammered, his eyes darting nervously. "I'm Sarah, Robert's wife." "The woman your little scam tried to paint as a cheat," I stated, pulling out my phone and showing him a cropped screenshot of the DS transfer log from Robert's hard drive. "I know about the $4.5 million, Daniel, and I know about the offshore accounts." He looked sick. The flashiness he was known for was gone, replaced by pure, terrified calculation. "I don't know what you're talking about, lady." "You have the wrong person." "Do I?" I countered, my voice low and dangerous. "Robert gave you a list of things to do, didn't he? Including being at the River Road Motel on a specific Saturday night. You were there, driving your black Ford Expedition, waiting for Robert, not me, and someone saw you." I watched him process this. He knew someone saw a car, but he thought the scandal was all about me, Sarah, the cheatin' wife. He didn't realize the witness was Ethan, and he certainly didn't know his presence was connected to my supposed affair. "What do you want?" he whispered, glancing nervously at the nearby residents. "I want the truth," I demanded. "I want to know exactly what Robert promised you and exactly what you did to make sure this whole mess landed on my reputation instead of your criminal conspiracy." I laid out my leverage. "Robert thinks he can pin all the blame on you once the final transfer is made. He thinks he can use my adultery to claim financial distress, sell off assets, and disappear, leaving you holding the bag. I have the evidence to tie both of you to the embezzlement, but Robert doesn't know I have it yet." I lowered my voice, making my proposition sound like a twisted form of salvation for him. "Here's the deal, Daniel. Robert made a massive mistake when he involved his son. My son, Ethan, is being emotionally blackmailed. Robert convinced him that if he didn't lie about seeing me cheat, Robert would leave him. Robert used the image of your black Ford Expedition, which he knew Ethan had once heard me mention, to make the lie stick. He coached my child to destroy his mother to protect himself." The severity of Robert's betrayal of his own son seemed to momentarily stun Daniel. He was a thief, but even he seemed shocked by the emotional manipulation. "You're asking me to—" "What?" he asked. "I'm asking you to protect yourself," I said firmly. "I can go to the firm's compliance department tomorrow with the DS transfer log and the location data proving Robert had you at the River Road Motel for an exchange. Not for me. That sends both of you to jail for years. Or," I paused, letting the silence draw out, "you can write me a signed statement right now. A full confession detailing the embezzlement scheme, Robert's involvement, and critically, how Robert instructed you to be at the motel as a distraction, knowing the subsequent lie about the car would be planted." I slid a small pre-printed legal statement and a pen toward him. "You give me this, and I ensure that when the full weight of the investigation comes down, your cooperation is documented. You get a lighter sentence. You get to minimize your role. You get to survive." Daniel Stern looked at the paper, then at me. He was cornered. His partner had betrayed him. His scheme was exposed, and I was offering him a lifeline, albeit a dirty one. The chance to survive by selling out Robert. He took the pen, his hands shaking slightly less than mine had been when I started this insane mission. He began to write, detailing the whole ugly scheme, the clients, the offshore accounts, the money laundering, and the final damning detail, Robert's deliberate use of the Blackford expedition and the motel as a scapegoat for my fictional affair. I had my full signed confession. The truth was finally out of the darkness. With Daniel Stern's signed confession in my hand, the final confrontation with Robert was inevitable. I didn't want a shouting match. I wanted a precise surgical dismantling of his entire web of lies. My ultimate goal remained the same: to protect Ethan from the full trauma of realizing his father was not just a liar, but a criminal who manipulated him into destroying his mother. I returned home late that night. Robert was in the living room, meticulously going over his financial documents, preparing his defense for the divorce. He looked up, his expression cold and distant. "Where have you been, Sarah?" "You missed the call with the lawyers. This delay is costing us money." "It's costing you money, Robert," I corrected him calmly, walking across the room to stand directly in front of him. "And you won't be needing the divorce lawyers." "Oh?" Decided to drop the fight? Smart move. It was never going to work out once Ethan spoke up. He smirked, confident in the power of his son's lie. I didn't argue. I simply placed the signed confession on the coffee table. The header was clear: sworn confession of embezzlement and coercion. Robert looked down at the paper. His expression went from smug confidence to utter bewilderment, and then a horrifying, sickening realization. He picked it up, his eyes scanning Daniel Stern's looping, panicked handwriting. He read the total amount stolen, the offshore accounts, and finally the paragraph detailing how he had convinced Daniel to be the visible distraction at the River Road Motel. "No," he whispered, his voice catching. "This is a fabrication. Blackmail. Daniel is trying to save his own skin." "He is," I agreed. "But unlike Ethan's lie, this fabrication is supported by your DS transfer log." I didn't produce the hard drive, but the memory of its contents was enough. "And by the fact that your name is now being flagged by the firm's automated compliance checks, something I initiated the moment I saw Daniel's name." His defiance crumbled. You were supposed to be the cheat, the distraction. You were supposed to be fighting for custody and assets, not digging into my professional life. You sacrificed your wife's reputation and your son's innocence to cover up a $4.5 million embezzlement, Robert, I said, my voice heavy with disgust. You made our son believe that my infidelity would save him from losing you. You twisted his love for you into a weapon against me. I delivered the final blow. I have already arranged a meeting with the firm's compliance director for first thing tomorrow morning. They will receive Daniel's full confession, the transfer logs, and the details of your coercion of Ethan. Robert stood up, grabbing the paper. You can't. Think about Ethan. This will ruin him. He needs his father. If I go to jail, Ethan has already been ruined by your lies, Robert, I interrupted, cutting through his self-pity. And he doesn't need a father who teaches him that manipulation and crime are the paths to stability. He needs truth. What about the family? What about our reputation? He pleaded, grasping for the last shreds of his comfortable life. Your reputation is already garbage, I said simply. The firm will announce that you were fired for gross misconduct and embezzlement. The news will focus on the $4.5 million theft. which is a big, simple story. They will quietly dismiss the fabricated adultery scandal, saving my name, because it's a non-issue compared to a financial crime of this scale. Ethan will hear that you committed a crime, not that his mother cheated, and he will realize that his lie was to protect his own future, not your honor. The next day was chaos. Robert was escorted from his office by federal agents. The headlines screamed about financial misconduct, not marital infidelity. The full story of the money laundering and Daniel Stern's involvement quickly eclipsed any whispers about the River Road Motel. My focus immediately shifted to bringing Ethan home and repairing the devastating breach between us. I drove back to Amelia's house. I sat with Ethan for hours, holding his hand, letting him talk. He confessed the whole painful process, Robert's increasing panic, the vague threats about the family breaking apart if the money problems came out, and Robert's careful instruction about what he was supposed to see at the motel, the black Ford, the dark-haired woman, the laughter. He told me if you were gone because of the cheating, he could focus on saving the money and he wouldn't have to leave me, Ethan admitted, his head bowed. He said you were strong and you would forgive him later. I didn't want him to leave me, Mom. I held my son tightly. I know, sweetie. I know. You were scared and you were protecting the family the only way you knew how. You were brave, but you never have to carry a lie that heavy for anyone again, especially not for me. It took time, but the relationship slowly healed. Robert's desperate act had forced a clean break. The financial devastation was immense, but the emotional clarity was priceless. We sold the house, rebuilt our lives in a new city, and started fresh. Ethan eventually thrived, finally free from the impossible burden Robert had placed on him. And me? I learned that the most painful betrayal often comes from those who should protect you, but the most powerful defense comes from a mother's refusal to let her own child be used as a weapon. Thank you for listening to this difficult confession. We are so grateful to share these stories with you. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments section below.